Throughout my many years of spiritual guidance, I've encountered countless souls at different stages of their evolutionary journey. Some are just beginning their spiritual awakening, while others stand at the threshold of their final incarnation on Earth. Today, I want to share with you the profound signs that may indicate you are experiencing your last lifetime in this physical realm. The concept of multiple lifetimes isn't new to human consciousness. Ancient wisdom traditions across civilizations have spoken of the soul's journey through various bodies, learning and evolving with each experience. Edgar once described this process as the soul's school, where we return until we've mastered all the lessons required for spiritual graduation. Have you ever felt a peculiar sense of completion, as if something deep within you knows that you've experienced everything this earthly plane has to offer? This sensation of mission fulfillment is often the first indicator. It's not depression or apathy, quite the opposite. It's a profound peace that comes from knowing you've done what you came here to do. I remember counseling a woman in her 70s who expressed this very feeling. I've loved deeply, I've suffered greatly, I've learned forgiveness, and now I feel like I'm simply observing the final act of a beautiful play, she told me. Her eyes held the serene wisdom of someone who had completed their soul contract. Another powerful sign is a natural, effortless disconnection from material pursuits. Those in their final incarnation often find themselves spontaneously releasing their attachment to possessions, achievements, and social status. A successful businessman once came to me, confused about his sudden lack of interest in expanding his empire. I've spent decades chasing wealth and recognition, he confessed, but now it all seems like a distraction from what truly matters. This wasn't a midlife crisis, but a soul recognition. His spirit had outgrown the need for material validation. This detachment extends beyond the material world into emotional relationships as well. Those completing their final journey often experience a profound emotional detachment that doesn't diminish love but rather transforms it. They love without possession, care without control, and connect without dependency. Their relationships become channels for spiritual growth rather than sources of emotional fulfillment or identity. Perhaps the most beautiful sign is the development of boundless empathy and compassion. When a soul nears the completion of its incarnation cycle, it naturally radiates unconditional love toward all beings. I've witnessed this in people who, despite personal suffering, maintain an unwavering compassion for others, even those who have harmed them. They see beyond the surface actions to the divine essence within each person. They understand that all souls are at different stages of the same journey, and judgment becomes impossible from this elevated perspective. Many in their final incarnation also report vivid memories or dreams of past lives, not as scattered fragments, but as a cohesive narrative of soul progression. These aren't simply imagination, but glimpses of the soul recognizing its completed journey. Through these memories, they understand the purpose behind each lifetime and how each experience contributed to their spiritual evolution. Do you frequently experience déjà vu? This sensation of having lived a moment before might be more significant than you realize. For souls in their final incarnation, déjà vu becomes almost constant, a recognition that they have indeed experienced the full spectrum of human experiences across many lifetimes. One of the most remarkable traits I've observed in souls approaching their final incarnation is what I call inexplicable intuitive wisdom. These individuals possess profound insights into existential questions without formal study or education on these matters. They speak with clarity about spiritual principles, as if recalling rather than learning, because in truth, they are accessing the accumulated wisdom of many lifetimes. I remember meeting a young woman in her 20s who had grown up in a completely secular environment with no exposure to spiritual teachings. Yet, when she spoke about the nature of consciousness, the purpose of suffering, or the interconnectedness of all beings, her words carried the depth and nuance of an ancient sage. When asked how she knew these things, she simply replied, "I don't know how I know, I just do." This inherent wisdom transcends intellectual knowledge. It's the soul's remembrance of truth recognized across countless lifetimes. Those in their final incarnation also display a notable aversion to conflict and an overwhelming desire for peace. This isn't mere conflict avoidance born of fear, but a soul-deep recognition that discord serves no purpose in spiritual evolution. They understand the futility of ego-driven confrontations and naturally gravitate toward harmony. A spiritual seeker once told me, "I used to defend my opinions vehemently, feeling that my identity depended on being right. Now I see disagreements as different perspectives on the same truth, and the need to prove myself has completely dissolved." This peace-seeking nature extends beyond interpersonal relationships into a broader relationship with existence itself. They've transcended the struggle against life's challenges, instead flowing with them, understanding each difficulty as the final polish on a diamond that has endured tremendous pressure across many lifetimes. Perhaps the most telling sign is an intuitive understanding that this particular lifetime represents a closing chapter. This isn't a morbid fixation on death, but rather a calm awareness of completion. I once counseled a man who described it eloquently. "I don't fear leaving this world, because it feels like I'm graduating rather than dying. There's a sense of achievement rather than loss." This perception doesn't typically manifest as a specific thought, but as a quiet knowing that permeates their entire outlook. The natural detachment from both emotional entanglements and material possessions is particularly fascinating to observe. While most people must practice detachment as a spiritual discipline, those in their final incarnation embody it effortlessly. They can love deeply while holding everything lightly. They appreciate beauty without needing to possess it. They engage fully in relationships while maintaining their sovereign spiritual identity. I've witnessed individuals give away cherished possessions, simplify their lives, and release long-term relationships, not from depression or crisis, but from a genuine recognition that these attachments have served their purpose in the soul's evolution. One spiritual elder I knew reduced his possessions to just what could fit in a small room, explaining, "Everything I truly own is within me. The rest is just temporary companionship on this final journey." This detachment creates a remarkable freedom. Freed from the weight of possessions, relationships, and identities accumulated over a lifetime, these souls move through the world with increasing lightness. They become like the Taoist concept of the uncarved block, natural, authentic, and unburdened by the artificial constructs of society. Perhaps the most profound sign of a final incarnation is an almost constant connection with the divine or higher planes of consciousness. The veil between worlds grows increasingly thin for these individuals. They experience regular moments of transcendence during ordinary activities, washing dishes, walking in nature, or conversing with others. One woman described it as living simultaneously in two worlds, with the material dimension becoming increasingly transparent, revealing the luminous reality behind it. This spiritual connection isn't something they do, it's something they are. Prayer and meditation are no longer practices, but natural states of being. The divine isn't something they reach for, but something they rest within. Their consciousness naturally gravitates toward unity rather than separation, wholeness rather than fragmentation. The journey toward one's final incarnation is marked by a profound shift in how we engage with time itself. Those completing their soul's journey often experience a curious relationship with temporal reality, living fully in the present moment while simultaneously feeling somewhat outside of time's constraints. It's as if they're observers of time rather than subjects to it. This perspective creates a remarkable serenity about both past and future, free from regret or anxiety. I recall counseling an elderly gentleman who embodied this timeless awareness. Despite facing a terminal illness, he approached each day with extraordinary presence. "I no longer measure my life in years," he shared, "but in moments of true connection and awareness. Time feels like a construct I'm gradually transcending." This wasn't denial of his situation, but a sole recognition that his identity existed beyond temporal boundaries. Another profound indicator of a final lifetime is the integration of shadow aspects, those denied, repressed, or unconscious elements of our psyche. While most spiritual seekers struggle with their shadows throughout multiple incarnations, those completing their journey demonstrate a remarkable wholeness. They've acknowledged and embraced even the most challenging aspects of their humanity. There's no fragmentation in their being, no disowned parts, no inner conflicts between their spiritual aspirations and human reality. I remember a spiritual teacher who openly discussed his past struggles with addiction, anger, and selfishness without shame or identification. "These weren't failures in my journey, he explained, but essential chapters that helped me understand the full spectrum of human experience. Now they're neither wounds nor identities, just valuable experiences that expanded my compassion. This integration creates a palpable authenticity that others instinctively trust. Those in their final incarnation also demonstrate an unusual relationship with their physical bodies, a simultaneous respect for and detachment from their corporeal form. They maintain their health not from fear of aging or death, but from appreciation for their body as the temple housing their consciousness during this final journey. Yet they hold their physical condition lightly, without the desperate attachment many feel toward youth and vitality. A woman in her 60s once shared her perspective. "I care for this body as I would tend a beloved garden I'm soon to leave, with attention and gratitude, but without the illusion that it defines me or that I can maintain it indefinitely." This balanced perspective allows them to experience physical life fully while preparing for its eventual transcendence. Perhaps one of the most beautiful signs of a final incarnation is the development of what I call universal recognition, the ability to see the divine essence in everyone, regardless of their behavior or evolution. This isn't naive optimism, but clear spiritual perception. Those completing their soul journey can simultaneously acknowledge human limitations while perceiving the perfect spirit within each person. This perspective dissolves judgment completely. I've observed individuals who can interact with those society deems difficult or damaged with the same authentic love and respect they offer to spiritual masters. They recognize that all souls are simply at different points on the same journey they've nearly completed. A spiritual elder once told me, "I no longer see good or bad people, just souls having exactly the experiences they need for their growth, exactly when they need them." Many in their final incarnation also demonstrate a curious balance between acceptance and action. They've transcended the spiritual bypass of passive acceptance without purpose, yet they've also released the egoic drive to control outcomes. They act from inspiration rather than ambition, responding to life's calls without attachment to results. Their actions carry a quality of grace, effort without struggle, purpose without strain. A humanitarian I counseled explained this paradox beautifully. "I work tirelessly for causes I believe in, yet I'm completely at peace with whatever unfolds. My responsibility is to offer my gifts fully, but the fruits of those offerings belong to the universe." This stance creates a remarkable effectiveness combined with deep serenity, action without the burden of considering themselves the doer. Those completing their soul's journey also display a unique relationship with suffering, both their own and others. They neither deny pain nor become identified with it. Instead, they hold suffering in a compassionate awareness that transforms it. They understand pain as a teacher rather than an enemy, a temporary condition rather than an identity. This doesn't diminish their empathy, but rather enhances it, allowing them to be fully present with others' suffering without becoming overwhelmed or feeling compelled to fix it. A hospice worker who had clearly mastered many lifetimes of lessons shared, "I can sit with the dying and their grief without needing to change their experience or protect myself from it. Pain and loss are as sacred as joy and celebration. All are threads in the beautiful tapestry of a complete human life." As we approach the culmination of our exploration into the signs of a final incarnation, we must address perhaps the most subtle yet profound indicator, the disappearance of spiritual seeking itself. Those completing their soul's journey no longer search for enlightenment, awakening, or transcendence, not because they've abandoned the spiritual path, but because they've recognized that what they sought was always present. The seeker dissolves into the sought. I've observed this quality in rare individuals who no longer identify as spiritual practitioners despite embodying profound spiritual truth. They've transcended the need for practices, teachings, and identities that once served their evolution. A woman who had spent decades in intense spiritual discipline told me, "I realized one day that I was trying to become something I already am. Now, I simply live from that recognition." This doesn't mean they abandon meditation, prayer, or contemplation. Rather, these practices transform from means to ends into expressions of their natural state. Those in their final incarnation often display what might be called effortless virtue, Moral and ethical behavior flows naturally from their being without struggle or deliberate choice. They don't need to consult rules or principles to determine right action, because their awareness has evolved beyond the dualistic mind that creates ethical dilemmas. Their actions spring from unity consciousness rather than moral calculation. A spiritual elder explained this state. Virtue isn't something I practice anymore. It's simply what happens when all separation dissolves. When you truly see others as yourself, kindness is as natural as breathing. This effortless goodness carries none of the rigid self-righteousness often associated with morality, but rather a flexible wisdom that responds uniquely to each situation. Another remarkable quality of those completing their incarnation cycle is profound gratitude for the entirety of their soul's journey, including its darkest chapters. They've transcended the human tendency to divide experiences into good and bad, instead recognizing the perfect orchestration of their evolution across many lifetimes. Every challenge, every pain, every joy is appreciated as an essential thread in the magnificent tapestry of their soul's completion. I recall a conversation with a man who had endured extraordinary suffering, poverty, imprisonment, betrayal, and illness. Yet when he spoke of his life, it was with genuine appreciation. I wouldn't remove a single difficulty from my path. Each apparent obstacle was actually a doorway to greater awareness. Now I see that nothing was wasted, nothing was random. All was grace guiding me home. This cosmic gratitude creates a palpable field of peace around such individuals. Those experiencing their final incarnation often demonstrate a curious relationship with death. Rather than fear or denial, they approach their eventual transition with neither attachment nor aversion, just open curiosity. Death is perceived not as an ending, but as a graduation, the natural completion of their physical journey. This isn't a morbid fixation, but rather a healthy integration of mortality into their understanding of life's natural cycles. A woman in her 80s shared her perspective. I've come to see death as simply changing rooms in the vast mansion of existence. I'll miss this particular room with its unique views and furnishings, but I'm also curious about what awaits beyond its doors. This relationship with mortality infuses their remaining time with presence and appreciation, rather than dread or desperate clinging. Perhaps the most beautiful quality of those completing their incarnation cycle is the spontaneous blessing they become to others. Without conscious intention, they function as catalysts for awakening, mirrors of possibility, and anchors of higher consciousness in our world. Their mere presence can accelerate others' evolution and healing. This isn't a special power they cultivate, but the natural radiation of a soul that has fulfilled its journey. A spiritual counselor once told me about encounters with such individuals. There are rare beings who seem to awaken something in you just by being themselves. No techniques, no teachings. Their presence alone reminds you of who you truly are. This catalytic effect isn't something they do. It's what they've become through the complete integration of their soul's wisdom across many lifetimes. As our exploration concludes, I must acknowledge that these signs aren't absolute indicators. Souls are unique, and their journeys unfold in countless ways. Some may display many of these qualities without being in their final incarnation, while others completing their cycle might manifest them differently. The soul's path transcends all categorization and prediction. What matters isn't whether this is your final lifetime, but how fully you embrace the evolution of consciousness in this present incarnation. Whether you're just beginning your soul's journey or completing millennia of growth, the invitation remains the same: to awaken fully to your divine nature, to love without condition, to serve with joy, and to recognize the sacred in every moment of this precious human experience. Remember the wisdom that has echoed through countless spiritual traditions across time. The purpose of incarnation isn't to escape the wheel of rebirth, but to bring heaven to earth by realizing heaven was never elsewhere. As you recognize these signs in yourself or others, may it inspire not pride or spiritual ambition, but humble gratitude for the magnificent journey of the soul returning to its source, like a river flowing at last into the vast ocean of consciousness from which it came. Have you recognized any of these signs in your own life? This wisdom isn't meant to remain theory. It's an invitation to deeper awareness. If these words resonated with your soul, take a moment now to subscribe to our channel so you never miss these spiritual insights that can transform your understanding of life's purpose. Share your experiences in the comments below. Which signs speak most directly to your journey? Your story might be exactly what another seeker needs to hear today. Remember, we're all walking this path together, at different stages of the same sacred journey. Subscribe, comment, and join our community of conscious souls seeking truth beyond the material world. The conversation doesn't end with this video, it begins.